Hey y'all, welcome back to another episode of Harrison Talks Pod, episode 43. I hope you're having a great day, having a great week, and a great NBA week because we are here to talk about some great NBA basketball and finally talk about the NBA Cup. Now, I know NBA Cup might not totally be your thing, but keep in mind that NBA Cup is pretty much talking about the regular season, at least at this point, because until we get to the semifinals, there's only a couple extra games. What extra is that? Just a couple extra games. Talk all this talk about load management and all of those things. That's my only vent for today about that subject. Anyways, I hope you were well, and today I'm going to talk about five different takeaways from the NBA Cup play so far in comparison to the regular season play as well. And we'll focus a little bit on some teams that I did not focus on last week, including some teams like the Heat and the Raptors and other teams that I've enjoyed watching so much that happen to be in the quarterfinals. Is that what we're calling it? The Elite Eight, the final eight of this tournament. So, like, subscribe, do all the YouTube things if you're on YouTube. And if not, like, subscribe wherever you are. Leave a comment to help the algorithm. Harrison Talks Pod is a part of Side Panel Network. Where we put out Nintendo Therapy every week. There should be an episode out before I upload this on Monday in America. I also have my gaming channel on YouTube, Harrison Plays Games. Lately, been doing daily uploads because been having so much fun doing that. We also have Ninja Turtle Nerds, which I believe uploaded recently. I should know, being part of this network, kind of helping run the whole thing. And we have other projects and things coming up, other YouTube videos that also get uploaded on our respective channels as well. So let's get into it. Let's start with a little overview of the NBA Cup play overall, starting in the Western Conference. And it's quite nice that all teams, I didn't look where the Cup play was the last 2 years, but all teams are either 4-0 or 3-1. Maybe that's always been the same. Anyways, Oklahoma City, of course, is 4-0 because they've only lost one game so far. 19-1, 11 straight wins. They just got J-Dub back. We'll be talking about them very soon. They'll be playing the Phoenix Suns in the quarterfinals. Los Angeles Lakers are 4-0 in Cup play. That includes missing LeBron James for most of Cup play. That includes missing Luka Doncic as well for, I believe, one of those games. I think so. But we'll be talking about them a little bit as well. Of course, LeBron James is back, looks energized, and looks like he's playing a different role this year so far, which is expected and unexpected. More about them in a bit. They play the San Antonio Spurs, which we'll talk about next. They are 3-1. They have been missing Victor Wembanyama the last 6 games, and they won their last game thanks to 35 points from Devin Vassell. They might be a Cinderella story in this whole NBA Cup. Not sure when Wembanyama exactly will come back, but if they can make a run without him, that could be very huge. As I said, they take on the Lakers, the Suns, who are taking on the Thunders. Then are went 3-1, and they might be the fun wild card in the West. They held off Memphis on their point differential, and now they take on the OKC Thunder, which is the only team that defeated them in Cup play. And Devin Booker, of course, has been playing above expectations. We talked about them a little bit last week, talking about exciting and unexpected league pass teams. So it's great to see the Phoenix Suns doing well in this new look Phoenix Suns. Kind of not really sure what to expect going into this season. I forget where my rankings were, but I think I had them lower on the playoffs, perhaps in the play-in, my rankings. Heading over to the East, we have the Orlando Magic at 4-0. They beat Detroit in a must-win finale, and Detroit is still first place in the East. They will be playing the Miami Heat, perhaps my favorite team to watch right now. Toronto Raptors are also 4-0. They were the first team in the East, or the first team in the league, rather, to clinch, and they look like they have a legit young rising duo with Ingram and Barnes, and also just a really exciting team to watch. They'll be playing the Knicks, who we'll talk about next. They are 3-1. They beat the Bucks in a win or go home game, and Brunson is playing near the all NBA level that we expected him to play. And this team is finally getting the amount of respect that they have wanted or deserved. Whatever you want to say is there. They take on the Raptors. And then the Heat are also 3-1. We can call them the wild card of the East, and they take on the Magic. Dropping my pen. They wrapped up Group A early, and they held the tiebreaker with point differential. And this team, despite having stars, but maybe not a actual superstar, are playing very fast, gritty, very fun, team-oriented basketball. So we talked about them last week, of course, because they've been one of my most fun teams to watch. Just I keep finding myself gravitating towards watching their games because I know that I most likely won't get frustrated with whatever style of basketball they're playing on whatever night. That can happen sometimes, can't it? So, we are done with NBA Cup plays then until the 9th, and then it will run until the 16th. The first game will be the Heat at the Magic and the Knicks at the Raptors on December 9th. So I did not make any predictions for this one, besides, well, we're going to talk about the Thunder, but it's going to be very difficult to defeat the Thunder at this point. But lots of interesting storylines. Thunder could win. Then they're rolling right off their championship into an NBA Cup. Lakers are back in it after not being in it last year. They won it the first year, of course. There's just a lot of teams that, yeah, I think a lot of storylines that could drive the rest of the season. Perhaps, perhaps. I think that in hindsight, I think in the entire NBA season, once you get past the playoffs and the postseason, it can be a little bit more easy to forget about. Like, oh, the Bucks won last year with Damian Lillard on that team, and that's one of the accolades that Damian Lillard can point to when he doesn't have, and he might not end up with an NBA championship. You know, we'll see. Or that LeBron has an NBA Cup and had $500,000 deposited to him in his big stack of money that he has. But also, he's someone who has all of the accolades and has 4 championships already, including one with the Lakers. So I think there's a lot of interesting storylines to be built. So now let's get into our overall takeaways of the NBA Cup so far. So my first takeaway and segment is more general. We'll kind of do general at the beginning and the end of this podcast. But the NBA Cup experiment is working, and I think that we have proof of that within actual basketball. And then I didn't see overall TV ratings for these games this year, but I think the overall interest is climbing. For me personally, I kind of mentioned at the top, I'm a fan of it because it does create purpose. And when I wasn't sure at first, but when I saw it built into the regular season, I thought that it makes a lot of sense. And if I had a hometown team, I would not be worried about my hometown team playing 2 extra games, and I'd say, "Go ball, go play," I think. So, I think that it's been a very good transition, and I just don't see it ever. I think it might change over time with the format. That could change, but I don't see a mid-season tournament or NBA Cup going away at any point. Will always support I think I will always support shortening the season if they would wanna shorten it by 10 games. I don't think it'll ever happen, but I do think shortening the season could create, an environment that is more player friendly and more consumer friendly as well. It's just that those darn TV networks would have to figure out where to get that extra money from. So, that's the only part to that. Anyways, we had some great NBA Cup games. I think that people are starting to, again, pay attention to it more, understand that some of the end of these games look different because you'll see players putting up shots at the end of cup games to try and lead in the point differentials. And it still catches me off guard sometimes seeing it. But then I'm, of course, reminded by the floors. And I didn't write down anything about the floors, but I was so happy to see that game four in LA that the Lakers did not use the yellow floor because I could barely see it on my TV with the saturation. And they used the white lines as well. I'm venting a lot so far early on in this episode. But anyways, um, I think interest is going up. I imagine with that the ratings are going up. And are teams viewing the NBA Cup differently is going to be the overall theme of this episode, where we're going to compare a lot of the teams that are in the quarterfinals, how they played in NBA Cup games compared to the rest of the NBA season. But it sure seems like teams like the Thunder use this opportunity to play with their rotations. Also, while Jalen Williams was out for most of it, and to treat it maybe more as a early, very, very early playoff preparation to that. It seems like uh, they're one of the teams that had tighter rotations, had more. Think they might have had less possessions overall. I didn't write that on here, but just tighter, more in the half court, and looks more like a playoff atmosphere. Certainly more of a style of basketball that I would enjoy watching. And watching OKC has been on and off because I am always expecting them to win at this point. It's been pretty crazy for that. So I don't know if I think it's changing the effort. I don't know if we can say it's changing the overall culture with coaching early on in November, but it certainly feels like an adjustment compared to past seasons where I've watched basketball in November, and it feels like there's been less of engagement. And then I also didn't write at all this week about officiating or anything like that. I do hope to see just more consistency with officiating when we get to the postseason, and hopefully the NBA Cup can be a positive influence for that as well. So, hey, why not? We've had some interesting storylines in the past. In year one, the Pacers became a breakout team. Uh, and then, well, last year made it to NBA Finals. And I mean, year two was, I don't know, year two had the Bucks, who won an NBA championship before with a very different looking team around Giannis, and then winning an NBA Cup was unique in a sense for Giannis and Damian Lillard together. So there's a storyline there. And then this year, so far, Spurs have gone 3-1, um, partially without Wembanyama, without Wemby the last 6 games. Magic go undefeated in NBA Cup play, so they're certainly overperforming in their Cup play so far. So there might be an interesting surprise when we get to the end of this whole tournament. So that seems to be consistent every year, is that we at least have one team, one franchise that is surprising. And I certainly enjoy that. I think most NBA fans or basketball fans do. And it's a one-off as well. That's the exciting like college basketball part of it is that it's not a series at all. So I think we are seeing adjustments early on in comparison to adjustments that you would see early on in past basketball seasons. And I think teams are just more and more prepared for this tournament. Let's talk about the Lakers to make my point for this, and it'll give me an opportunity to talk about the Lakers finally. Yes, LeBron James is back. Year 23, kind of this again, this kind of Swiss Army knife type of player seems to be uh, the third option so far, and that might remain consistent. I'm not going to dig too deep into how he actually feels about that. We have some people saying that, oh, he's always been able to play around anyone, and he's been waiting for years. He wanted to give it to Anthony Davis, but he never took it. So now we have Luca and Austin Reeves made a leap, so he can take off now as well. It's year 23, and then we have people saying that uh, he must hate it, and I don't know. It seems like there's never any kind of winning because if LeBron James is holding the ball, and this is not true just about him. This is like a lot of high usage people. But in the past, when he's holding the ball, it's like he should facilitate more, and it's hard to play around him, and he's getting older. So why isn't he passing the reins on to another player more? But now that I imagine his usage is like the lowest it's ever been, and seeing so many cuts that he's coming off of is really like it's entertaining to watch. I'll say that. Yeah, just never happy about anything that he does, but I guess that is not surprising. Let's compare. Uh, so they went 4-0 in NBA Cup. Their scoring went from 118 to 124.8 points per game in NBA Cup play during those 4 games. Their offensive rating went up by +9 in 100 possessions to 127 overall, and their net rating went from 3.6 to 11.7 in those 4 games. So certainly just playing a more efficient brand of basketball. And this team, as I said, they played most games without LeBron, and they played, I believe, one cup game without Luca. So they have had different players step up, and they've had different lineups they've had to try early on, just based on who's available. Field goal percentage, effective field goal percentage, all went up. 3-point percentage. Overall, Lakers, the one part they need to improve on is their shooting, including their 3-point shooting. They shot 40% in the 4 games in the NBA Cup compared to around 35, just a little bit lower than that overall in the regular season. And their makes went up from 11.4 to 13.5. So giving a lot, well, over 6+ points of offense in those games. So I think it's a good sign for the Lakers that the one area they need to improve on is their shooting, especially when you look at their top 3-point attempts, uh, like players with attempts, like I believe it would be Luca, Reeves, and Marcus. I'm not sure whoever number three is, but they are shooting. I think their top three combined is shooting below 30% right now. So good news is if your team is shooting badly, but you're still winning, well, then there is room for improvement, and at least you're not, at least the problem isn't turning the ball over all the time, for example. Assists went up, turnovers went down. Assist turnover ratio was a lot better at 1.8, and their pace, similar to most teams that are in the top eight or in this quarterfinals, went down about two possessions under 198.25. So much more execution in their half court, but this team also looks great in transition. I think I said it last week. I'm pretty sure I did. I love watching Luca play, but stop letting Luca go downhill on you and stop giving Luca a man towards the basket because he can pass over anyone, I swear. And it happens over and over again. And stop playing Luca in drop coverage. It's just, there's so many. It's fun to watch, but it also gets annoying watching the same thing over and over again sometimes. So we've had some other key players. Austin Reeves, of course, is playing the best basketball of his career so far. Is averaging 28.5 points, but in the cup games is averaging over 30, and he's averaging over 60% from the field in those 4 games as well. 46% from three in those 4 games, 92% from the line, just leading in a lot of offensive categories for the Lakers next to Luca and a lot of like efficiency or percentages. So just playing, I can't believe how well he's playing this year. Just did not see this sort of jump in his play. A lot of assertiveness. Certainly a fun style of basketball that he plays when he's going downhill. Net rating goes from 8 to 18 in these cup games for Austin Reeves. Luka Doncic is actually a little bit lower at 16 net rating for these cup games, but his offensive rating is leading at 129.2. LeBron James has an offensive rating in that one game of 141, but let's not count that. Let's say whoever played more than 3 games. Let's say that. There we go. And he was a plus 15 in the last cup game that he played with them. So he definitely helped amplify the team. And I mean, I think for most people, it's not surprising that he's able to go on to a team and make it better, not make it worse. I'm just going to make that a little more general. DeAndre Ayton has been the biggest surprise for me. I bet it's been the biggest surprise for a lot of people watching this Lakers team. He's shooting over 70% from the field, but in these cup games is shooting 85%. Crazy. And is also a similar offensive rating to Luca at 129. His net rating goes from 3 in the regular season to 20.2 in the 4 games that they went 4-0. So he seems a lot more decisive, but I think we can call that. We should give him a lot of credit. We should, because I've criticized him a lot. But it's also the Luka Doncic experience as well. It is, right? It is. But shout out to him uh, because I had zero confidence. It just is what it is. Just watching him play on Portland, watching him at the end of his time in Phoenix, just until I saw it, I didn't believe that it was going to be impactful. Yeah. Rui Hachimura, his shooting has been elite during those 4 games, shooting 47% from the 3-point line. His overall net rating is at 17.9. He's taking fewer bad shots, especially in the mid range, and he's looking better on defense as well. Jake LaRavia has been a great surprise on this team, shooting 49% overall, but in these 4 games is shooting 71%. So, he's also played every game that for the Lakers so far this season, so it's been great to see him on the court, and he's been a great role player for them, so that's great. Marcus Smart seems to be back. Seems to be back defensively and has been able to contribute a lot on both ends of the floor when he's on the floor. What am I trying to say? This segment's going on for too long, so what else can I say here? Gabe Vincent during those 4 games was great. Um, Assist to turnover ratio was at 3, so he's been doing a better job at securing the ball and just playing very, very efficient when he's on the floor. And I think the Lakers have a great chance to win 2 out of the 3 first uh, Cup championships if they can get past those Oklahoma City Thunder. But yeah, I had to talk for a moment. Like a lot of people, and I give a lot of crap to the Lakers as well and their whole organization. But with the way Luka's been playing, and I did not have confidence after they lost their first game. Just didn't think they had enough shooting, enough spacing. But I've been enjoying getting proven wrong again and again. Let's move on to number 2. I'm gonna yap less for the rest of these. So the Thunder are in a very interesting place. And it's really rare that a team can get to be so good where you think it might pull away from their overall productivity in the end. Think 2016 Warriors. So they're ahead of schedule. The Clippers are bad, and they might get a top 4 pick, the Thunder, that is, this year. There's like a 30% chance so far. And this team could accidentally be a 70-win team this year. I mean, 19-1. Jalen Williams has only played 1 game back, and they have a 15.7 net rating in those 19 games where they're 18-1 before Jalen Williams came back. And Jalen Williams is going to be the second best player for the Thunder on many nights. So, with how much rest a lot of their players get on some of these blowout games, certainly reminiscent again of 2015-16 Warriors, of where that team didn't need a lot of load management because they could build in their load management playing some of their starters 30 minutes a game sometimes. I think she's averaging, what, 35 around there? But I don't know if they would make a goal of setting a franchise record or doing 70 wins or 73 wins, whatever it might be. But um, if they don't want to focus on that and their top focus, which again we would assume would be winning another championship back to back, um, what I'm trying to say is they might hit it on accident. They might rest some players and still be winning games, considering, again, 19 games without Jalen Williams, and it's 18-1, not 19-1. Played J-Dub played his first game back in weeks. Thunder went 13-1 in December, and they remain a top 3 offense and defense in the league. So I think it's like I don't think it's close at this point. I think they are by far the best team in this league for a team that is so young, and again, a team that could very well have like a Boozer twin on their Thunder team. I keep thinking about the fact that they might get a lottery pick this year. Offensive rating 119, defensive rating at 103.4. And as I mentioned, 15.7 net rating overall is best in the league by a lot. To compare, 96 Bulls ended with 13.7, 28, 2008 Celtics had 11 to end their season. I'm not saying they're going to end their. It would be pretty intense for them to have a net rating to end that season, but so far it's this. They're on pace for something historic, of course, but they're also on pace to only lose like 4 games, and who knows if that's going to happen. So, despite playing well pretty much all the time, they have made improvements that point towards the NBA Cup games perhaps being more of a playoff atmosphere, playoff style, maybe a playoff prep for this Thunder team. The net rating increases to 17.6 in those 4 games, where they, of course, went 4-0. Offensive rating increases by about 4 points to 123.4. Effective field goal percentage goes up to 62%, and their turnover percentage goes down to 10.6%. So OKC has definitely used this time to, I think, kind of level up their offense and try to tighten their rotation, including at a time where they were missing key players that will hopefully be there during the playoffs. Their road record so far is 9-1, so of course they're undefeated at home. Their cup road differential is plus 31. 0.5 per game. Crazy. And their offensive rating on the road during those 2 games was 132, which is I'm sorry, no. Yes, Cup Road. In their 2 games, they were 120, 132 offensive rating plus 31.5 point differential. That is just absolutely absurd. Absolutely crazy. So, they're playing at a fast pace and a very efficient pace as well. They have number one defense in the league during the regular season. They are generating 10.6 steals per game. They are one of the most efficient teams at 56.4 effective field goal percentage, and they're generating almost 52 points in the paint per game as well. One of the best in the entire league. So they're certainly getting their points at all 3 levels at this time, showing great composure. Their assist turnover ratio is above 2 right now. So one of the most efficient teams just overall. They don't rely on shooting luck. They're relying on their pace, on their rotations, on the location of their players. What other role players can we talk about before moving on? Casey Wallace, 80% effective field goal percentage in those 4 cup games, including 53% from three. Isaiah Joe, 50% from three in those 4 games, including 75% true shooting percentage. Isaiah Hardenstein shot 78% from the field in those 4 games, 22 net rating, averaging 10.7 rebounds. The other Jalen Williams, J Will was 50% from three. AJ Mitchell was 57% from three. This team spacing is just incredible. Uh, it's just, I don't know if we can call it just the SGA or experiment or whatever we call it, but this team is shooting really, really well. And they just shoot better during these cup games. They're my pick. I think they're the team to beat out of all these 8 teams and, well, beyond this NBA Cup as well. Pretty crazy. I mean, they are on pace for 78 wins. Don't think that's gonna happen, but if they have a 65% win rate the rest of the season, they will hit 72 wins that 98 Bulls, 96 Bulls, excuse me, whatever it is. So, uh, the Thunder showed that they're in a good spot, and this might be just the start of a dynasty here. Who knows if they're going to get better? And yes, if they get a lottery pick, man, I'll keep watching basketball, but it's going to be tough for the rest of the league. Let's move on. And the Spurs have been an equal surprise so far this season, for good and bad. Started out great, had a win streak. I think they've only lost consecutive games once this season. Unfortunately, Wembanyama has gone out, has been out the last 6 games, but the Spurs are 5-1 in those 6 games, and they went 3-1 in their NBA Cup group play overall. So this team is showing a lot of discipline as well as having a lot of young players step up when needed. Having De'Aaron Fox come back prior to Wembanyama going out has definitely helped that. But I was expecting the Spurs to take more of a dive. Well, a dive, I should say, not more of, because again, they're 5-1. They've played pretty much as well without Wembanyama, but we're going to talk at the end as well why, if Wembanyama does miss a good chunk of this season, why that I think is going to affect the Spurs in the long run. So great to see a lot of discipline. Not surprised to see it from a franchise like the Spurs, but you know, a young team. It certainly is a young team. Over these last 6 games, they're averaging 120.8 points per game, which is a 120.2 offensive rating. They've shot the ball very effectively at a 55.6 effective field goal percentage and 60% true shooting percentage. And at 37% from three, they are averaging 14.2 makes in those last 6 games. And they're actually a top 5 defense in the last 6 games overall. So their ball movement hasn't hurt, and their offense hasn't been hurt. It's safe to say, though, that if Wimby was back, these numbers would probably be even better. Yeah, he would amplify the offense even more. So they're in a okay spot with winning games. They uh, averaged 10.5 turnovers in their 5 wins. They had 19 turnovers in their 1 loss in these last 6 games. And they're looking like, without Victor Wembanyama, they could still be a top 6 team in the West, certainly. When Wembanyama went out at the end, well, not the end, but when he went out last season, the Spurs were second, or the Spurs were at least in the playoffs at that point. And then Wembanyama going out, it was the then exact opposite. But this team looks like, with role players stepping up, getting older, continuity, having De'Aaron Fox there, having a coach there that is maybe feeling a little bit more stability. I don't know exactly, but um, I bet it's a combination of things. They're looking like, with or without Wembanyama, they can be a playoff team without playing, and with Wembanyama, they could be, I think, anywhere at the top of the West. Without Wimby, they're actually winning the point, the paint, the paint. They're averaging 50 points in the paint on games without Wembanyama, and they're allowing 45.7. So a slight advantage there. Their defense is not as good, but it's been stable enough for them to win with how much offense that they generate. Their opponent turnover percentage is at 13.9, which is certainly above theirs. Their points in the paint looks great. Their opponent's effective field goal percentage is at 54%, slightly below theirs as well. So without Wembanyama, they're still seeing advantages and they're playing still very good offense. So there might be a bigger discussion with where defense and offense is in the league so far, but we'll leave that for a less busy time. They're looking very good. De'Aaron Fox, since he came back, is averaging 26.3 points per game, 7.7 assists, only 2.3 turnovers per game. I say only, and his true shooting percentage is at 60%. Devin Vassell has been an elite shot maker, 19.3 points per game, 52.9% from three, and a 64% true shooting percentage. He's been certainly a key without having Wembanyama on the floor. And just have been a huge Devin Vassell supporter his entire career, NBA career, I should say. There we go. Kellen Johnson, Kellen Johnson has stepped up, shooting almost 62% from the field, 16 points per game, 71 true shooting percentage, and is averaging 8.3 rebounds per game. So he's helped stabilize the offense. Speaking of stabilizer, Harrison Barnes, 15.5 points per game, low turnovers, steady, good defense. Of course, a great veteran to have around. Julian Champagnie's been having a breakout season for himself, 14.7 points per game, 6.7 rebounds, 38% from three, 59% true shooting percentage. And Luke Cornett has offered an essential replacement size or as a rim deterrence. So having him on the Spurs has definitely been helpful as well. So as I mentioned, the Spurs are 3-1 in cup play. They average 15 threes per game in those four games, 90% from the free throw line, and their net rating was a plus 4.7. 123 offensive rating in those cup games, and and 21 points per game from Devin Vassell in those four games. So some key games for him to help secure their three wins. Defense looked improved during those plays. Offense opponents' turnovers went up during those four games, and they're playing a very switch heavy defense. No surprise from the Spurs. So I think this is an upset, I would say. I'm not sure against exactly who, but I think most people were not expecting the Spurs to be this good without Wembanyama, and they are heading on. And with the NBA Cup quarterfinals one-off game, anything can happen. And it would be, yes, a very interesting storyline if they could make a run without their big star young player, of course. So we'll see how they match up. It seems like they match up with teams like Denver very well with their switch heavy defense and with the way they can force turnovers and the way they can get into transition and run the floor. So they certainly have found ways to win against more talented teams, at least in my opinion. So they have a real five-man identity, whether or not Wembanyama is with them or not. And I'm not sure if it will be sustainable in the long run. It's hard to imagine that they would be the top team in the West without Wembanyama. With him, I think they could very well be. But without Wembanyama, their defensive rating is at 112.5, which again has been good enough so far with how good and how efficient their offense has been, but not sure if that would translate in the long run overall. So, certainly a team that I'm looking out for more. Was watching them a lot to begin the season, and then Wembanyama got hurt, but then they kept winning, so then I kept watching them more and more. So let's see how they do in group play, and let's see if Wembanyama comes back. All right, so if you made it this far, you gotta let me know which conference are you more excited about so far, whether it's regular season or whether it is NBA Cup action, because despite the West, I think being much better, uh, than in my opinion, the East has been almost more exciting to watch and certainly has some of my favorite teams to watch so far this season. And I'm really looking towards that Knicks Raptors game that will be in the quarterfinals for the NBA Cup. They haven't faced off yet. They're actually facing off tomorrow. I'm recording this late Sunday evening in Thailand, and they're actually playing in about 6 hours the first time. So they will match up once before their quarterfinals play, and they've never been a real rival in the past. They've never matched up in a playoff series, which I was surprised to when I looked that up. I thought perhaps maybe once. No coaching beefs, no like franchise shaping moments. There is some emotions with RJ Barrett playing on the Raptors now and playing great basketball also on the Raptors. So there is um I'm sure some extra motivation there. That's always the parts that I enjoy, right? So this might be a cup created rivalry. It might not be a legacy one, but it's certainly a matchup of two younger teams that have different narratives around them. Expected the Knicks to be one of the best or atop the East this year, and a team that has gradually gotten better, and a team that well, we know the history of the Knicks, and we know how much money they have, yet hasn't won in so long. And the Raptors, I just throw my hands up because they're a really fun team to watch. And when I watch them, they make so much sense of why this team would work in the modern NBA. They were just a team that I just didn't expect to be winning early on or really at all. But it is very, very well accepted. I love it. Let's talk about RJ Barrett. Why not? Talking about if there's any kind of rivalry between these two teams. In the 4 games for NBA Cup, he averaged 21 points per game, 53% from the field, and 44% from the 3-point line. He was the number one crunch time scorer for the Raptors in those 4 games. And both the Raptors and Knicks look like a serious conference threat right now. And of course, when they face off, it's going to be win or go home. They are both 4-0, but that will change once they face off. Different sorts of identities for these two young teams. The Knicks are more slow and more physical. They play more in their half court. They rely more on their 3-point shots, and they are more elite in their offensive rebounding, better with not turning the ball over as much either. The Raptors, they are longer, they play faster or they're faster, they're more athletic. They have more of an elite defense, and they have the number one assist percentage in the entire league at 68%. That's crazy. Along with heavy assist percentage. They are one of the leaders for points in the paint in the league at 54 points in the paint. And they also play a very switch heavy defense. So it's going to be an entertaining game to watch. I hope I'm recording late. I don't know if I'll watch live tomorrow's game, but it should be a very interesting game to see how these two coaches and teams match up against each other. New York wins with math and muscle, I wrote down. Toronto wins with pace and precision. Knicks have been elite at home. They are plus 12 net rating, and they are minus zero point 0.2 on the road, so they are average on the road. Their game tomorrow is in Toronto, so let's keep an eye on that. The Knicks look like they could be a contender overall if they're playing like this throughout this season into the postseason. During the four group cup games, they had an offensive rating of 128. Their 3-point percentage was at 42%, and their offensive rebounding percentage was at 36%, which is pretty crazy. They had to lead all teams during that same time. Jalen Brunson, of course, will be a problem for Toronto or most teams. He's averaging 33 points per game, 51% from the field, 45% from three. And we'll see the type of matchups that Toronto throws at him. And I'm sorry, that was 33 points during those four games. Excuse me. Speaking of cup play, let's stay in those four games. Josh Hart averaged 13.3 points, 8.8 rebounds, 6.3 assists. McBride averaged 56.5% from three in those four games. Landry Shamet, 20 points per game in group play. Robinson, 22% offensive rebound rating, certainly contributing overall to that 36 or whatever I just said, offensive percentage rating. So they have a lot of scores, and that has just been amplified more during those group cup games. How and why the Raptors make this a rivalry? In group cup in those four games, their defensive rating was below 100 at 99.8. They've been holding plenty of teams below 100 points. Their net rating overall in those four games was 13.3, and they held their opponents to 41% from the field. Not from three, from the field overall. So just playing very finesse, fast, physical, switch heavy defense from the Raptors. Very fun to watch. Ingram, 22.5 points per game. Barrett, 21 points per game, 44% from three. Barnes, 18.8 points, 8.8 rebounds, just having all around impact on this team, of course. So overall, I would just say if you can, well, this comes out afterwards, but watch the highlights of this upcoming Knicks Raptors game because the Knicks offense looks outstanding while the Raptors defense looks outstanding, as I said. Knicks during those four games in the NBA Cup averaged their offensive rating was the highest, while the Raptors' defensive rating was also the lowest. So it will be a fascinating game to watch. I'm expecting that it will be a very close game, but I will be glued to seeing what types of rotations each team throws at their opponents. All right, and we have one more part for today. So I'm going to end and start the same way, sort of. This last takeaway for the NBA Cup so far is that it is influencing real playoff narratives, and there are examples of that throughout the league for teams that made it into this top eight quarterfinals and teams that weren't. And I think we saw that throughout these games and also at the end of some of these close games as well. Under pressure, for example, let's talk about a few of them. Oklahoma City was 2-0 in the clutch in those 4 games. And in the clutch, they had a plus 30.4 net rating. So if that's an example of what a Thunder playoff team could look like, it's most likely going to look like the same as last season where they won the whole thing. Orlando was 3-0 in the clutch for these 4 games and had a 39 net rating. Toronto 3-0 in the clutch, 65 plus 65 in their net rating, which is absurd. And Portland Trailblazers were 2-0 in the clutch in those 4 group stage games. So that was interesting and nice surprise and takeaway. Meanwhile, on the other end, Minnesota was 0-2 in the clutch. Milwaukee was 1-2. Denver was 1-2. And then if you want to go all the way to the bottom, New Orleans was 0-3 in the clutch. But hey, at least New Orleans was in the clutch in 3 of those 4 games, I guess, if you're looking for any kind of positive there. So doesn't like I started by saying that it certainly doesn't feel like November or October basketball all the time. It feels elevated. Maybe not the playoffs, but it certainly does feel elevated. And when you're looking at when you're looking at like postseason playoff play where the pace goes down, you're looking at the top players and whether their efficiency and overall play is going up. SGA shot 56% from 3 in those 4 games. Brunson had higher shooting splits in those 4 games. Uh, LeBron, although smaller sample size, was more efficient. Players on Toronto, like their big 2, their big 3, certainly look like they have scoring that is ready for a playoff style team already. So lots of expectations being met and a lot of surprises as well that are well received, as I said. We're seeing, of course, shorter rotation, a lot more matched up based decisions, and we're going to see that a lot more as we go into the quarter semifinals as well. And the pace is slowing down in those games overall, almost kind of taking it back to the old days, right? Yes, teams all like Knicks, Lakers, Magic, Thunder all had slower pace in those cup games. Defensive ratings were lower for all of those teams. Turnovers dropped for a lot of contending playoff teams, including Thunder, Lakers, Knicks, all that dropped during that time. And also, offensive rebounding had spiked for teams as well. We mentioned the Knicks, but also the Spurs. Although in their last one, who knows? Who knows? So I think we're seeing a shift, and I don't know if we're seeing as much of a shift in like the national conversation at all. I think it is getting more coverage, and I think it's getting more positive coverage than anything, besides those stupid floors they put down sometimes. But hey, I said I was only going to bring it up once, I brought it up twice. So, speaking of narratives, let's see what narratives get brought up or get which narratives brought up during the rest of this NBA Cup. Yes. Can the Knicks win a clutch series? Can the Raptors spoil a contending team with their defense? Are the Thunder a finals team already, even though it's early on and they were missing their second best player for so long? Will the Magic surprise teams in the East? Will the Lakers meet their expectations with Luka Doncic. Who knows? I think there um, is a lot of good basketball to be watched, and this is not fake intensity at all. This is actual, real good basketball being played. That's it. Like, subscribe, do all the YouTube things if you're on YouTube. If not, subscribe wherever you are. Please share with somebody who's an NBA fan, and I hope you have a great NBA week. Thanks for joining me, and I will see you next time.